This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Marie Andric, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hi, Katarina.
Hello.
Back on the rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, why don't we cover one hot topic today?
I hope it's a hot HR topic.
It's a hot HR topic.
Good. Okay, I'm game.
Okay, good. So, I don't know about you, but I think wherever I look now and read about top of mind, it seems like people are talking about flexible work still. Mm-hmm. And also there is this trend, movement, whatever we call it, that employers want people back in the office.
Right.
That's the hot topic for today.
Okay.
What are your reflections on that? Have you seen that as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's left, right, center. It's in all social media, but a lot of articles too. And I think the debate you'd want to have or discussion is not about, do we call it remote? Do we call it hybrid? Do we call it? It's actually that most employers now think that they want, for different reasons, all their workforce to be back in the office. Mm. Yes. So yes, it's almost impossible to not have read up on it. And I think the differences are different. So I think for some industries, it makes a bit sense. Mm. And where I think it's the good reasons and good employers, and it's not about the trust or lack of trust, it seems at least. It's more about a lot of people seem to, not necessarily all of them, really like to be at home, but majority wants to be at home. It is a bit for some about productivity and efficiency. Mm. And of course, you're running a business for a reason. And it also seems to be a third bucket where most employers want people to come back because leadership struggle with having people disperse. And the fourth or fifth bucket I have read up on is, I think, the main reason, obviously all of the above as a mix, but also we know what it is to run a company, but also be leaders or managers and manage when everybody is quite close. And as everything that we also know, it's not good for you to eat low carbs or bad carbs, but we keep doing that, at least majority of us. You know that it's good to exercise, and the majority of us don't exercise on a frequent basis. We know what it is to come into an office and work together and see each other and be able to have spontaneous meetings and listen to each other. And most of the offices and the way that we created work the last 100 years is actually around that. So is this backlash, or what you would like to call it, is this a surprise? I don't think it is. Do we know that the future holds something else? Yes. And if we don't start practicing now, I think it's going to be not so good for people, but not so good for businesses. And I think the only companies that are not struggled are the ones that were born 100% remote and are sticking to remote. I think the company that are struggling are a company like ours, but I think it's too big of a word to say that we are struggling. We learn a couple of things. We have to off-learn a couple of things. We need to find new ways of working. There's new technology, but I think with all this new, it gets quite tired. Mm. And I think that's what we see now, a reaction to that. I think the freedom that we've been talking about when it comes to Spotify's Work From Anywhere program, the flexibility, the trust and dare to be trust-based, but also I think it brings more tenure to a lot of people that otherwise, and also they can live where it makes sense for them and their family. So there's so many pros, and yes, there are a couple of cons, but hey, let's face it, the old way of working also had a lot of cons. Mm-hmm. The only difference, and the biggest difference, is that we knew what that was, and we had learned to live with that. And we all need blankets, right? Or blankies when we are kids, when we grow up, but also at work. So we tend to hold on to the things that we know. So I think that's why we see all this, like an avalanche of articles and reactions and companies that are going back.
I agree. So do you think that, and come back to Spotify, but generally, do you think that you could actually bring people back now fully to the office after working flexible, regardless of how that flexible looked like for you in the company?
I think you can. First of all, there is a recession, right, and inflation, and there's insecurity on the work or labor market, but that's not going to be forever. I think we see some light in the tunnel, and right now I think the employers can do pretty much kind of almost what they like to, but I think again it defines you if you do that and you take the opportunity or advantage of that. Obviously, you are running a business, so there are a couple of things that are unpleasant and decisions you need to make and so on and so forth. And we all know what they are. But when it comes to the things that you can be in control of as an employer or together or in dialogue with your people, I think it's a very short-sighted game to force people back if it's not a job that needs to be done in a specific. I mean, you can't open a hotel, you can't give service in a different place than the actual kind of museum or...
But those are the obvious ones,
yes,
right?
Yes, yeah. I think that. And then for security reasons, I'm pretty sure that a lot of banks are asking their people to come back because having all of your equipment in one place will bring you cyber security. And I'm pretty sure you and I and also the people that work there wants that to be secure. So I think it's for a lot of reasons that are not that obvious to the eye. But then you have that dialogue and discussion with your people and the people that wants to work in an industry or a company or a place like that. I mean, at Spotify, we also have a lot of people that needs to come into there. You can't head up, for instance, a reception and not be in the reception. That's going to be very, very hard. And still a lot of people, more than 50% comes into the office because that's their choice. Have to respect that too.
Yeah, definitely. So, thank you. Now, you launched the Work From Anywhere program, is it 2 years ago? 3 years. 2 or 3 years
everything
ago.
that happened
Yeah, I know.
after the pandemic is very confusing, but it was in March, if I recall right, of 2022.
Right.
Yep.
And it's 24 now. So, so 2 years. And I also know that you stay in dialogue with your employees, you check in with them, you listen, what is working, what is not working, what do you need to tweak and so forth. And you've done that during these 2 years. So, and you mentioned this earlier, you said, I mean, we're also struggling, even though you were working, you have technology, you were working rather flexible before the pandemic. So why don't you share with us what has been the learnings for you now, this year?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't think as a company we're generally struggling with it. I think there are islands that find it more difficult than others. I think everybody that works here, no matter what role you have, loves the idea of being 100% flexible and kind of work in a very trust-based and also value-based company, because I think that is the essential. And that I don't think anybody wants to change, or even if it's sometimes hard. But then there are, in a year or even in a quarter, some things that makes more sense, or just because of lack of experience how to do it in a different way, it's easier to come together. One, because it's nice to see people.
True.
Even if you're introvert, sometimes it is very nice, but you don't necessarily want to see people all day, all night, all week, because then you get tired, and some people don't. But for the social thing, it's important. For all the people that are new, to get onboarded digitally and not with your team takes longer time. To see all the things that you can't see or can touch or is obvious that is part of a culture too, that is harder. So I think that is one of the things that we haven't cracked the code 100% entirely. And that's also why we brought back one of our hero events. So we do intro days face-to-face here in Stockholm. And that has changed tremendously in so many ways than from the years when we had the pandemic, when we did it digital. And it wasn't that it looked good and was, I think, one of the best events we did. 100% digital. But there's something else when you bring people from all around the world, different roles, different functions, different ethnicity, races, but also cultures and countries.
You glue them together.
Yeah, there's a social tissue that is created that never goes out, right? And it also helps people to guide them and also feel that they are part and get that sense of belonging. So that is important. But you can mix things, and I think this is what we have learned. What do we do? And also, if you come directly from university, we've been talking about that before, we saw after a while that these are the people that we need to onboard in the office, even if their team has decided to work from home. So they can guide and understand what type of animal and what makes kind of Spotify tick, and how do I do with this, and how do I behave and show up, and what do I have to care about, and what don't I have to care about, which is hard. When you don't know what questions to ask either. So that has helped by changing that. And then when it comes to planning, strategy, aligning, syncing, most of that you can do actually, but once in a while it's good to get people together to really align and commit and do things, right? There's some energy of almost signing, like, okay, this is what we're going to do in the coming quarters, or especially if it's very ambitious and aspirational, right? So there are things and moments that we still gather the forces, or as we say, the bandmates come together. And then we introduce something that we think is going to help, again, from the feedback of all our people. We introduce Core Week, right?
Yes.
And Core Week is you get together, in short, together with your core team. But more to come, maybe in another hot topic of how do you build the bridges between people in the environment of work from anywhere.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shall we?
Yes.
Close it?
Okay. Why don't we?
Let's do it.
Yes. Stay safe.
Stay
strong. Stay active.
Idemodalje. Jag bara, gör vi tillsammans eller jobbar vi här? Ska du stå med kaffekopp?
Ja, jag tror det.
Aha.
Ska vi inte det? Var det...
Du har 2 dryckor och jag har en. Vet inte.
Och du är orange här på den överläppen.
Kan du inte hjälpa mig då?
Jag gjorde väl det genom att säga nu.
Jo, men kan du ta bort det orangea? Vad hände här?
Jag vet inte, allt är inte fast i råttsvansen så att säga. Pizzan i råttan.
Nej,
jo.
Så får du inte säga.
Va?
Usch.
Pizzan i råttan,
Nej,
vet du inte vad det är?
Nej, jo, men det kan vara konstigt. Det kan upplevas konstigt. Pizzan i råttan. Nej, Katarina. Så jobbar vi inte.
Råttan i pizzan?
Nej, nu.
Ja.
Okej.
Ja. Heter inte uttrycket så?
Jag har aldrig hört det uttrycket.
Inte, ja, det kan vara lite pervo.
Nej, det gick en myt om att man käkade pizza så var det råttkött.
Ja.
Så råttan i pizzan, men så var det inte så. Utan det är så här, det heter urban myths. Det är helt rent.
Clean.
Ja. Det är
helt clean.
Ja.
Men du vet att det skulle kunna vara något jävligt konstigt.
Nej, bara i konstiga hjärnor. Ja, jag tror också.
Okej, I was on hot. That's where I was. Okay.
Hot topics.
Hot topic. Okej.
Just från pressarna. Vi tar en annan.
Du får vara rolig, jag är bara...
Du får bara vara hästsvans.
Ja. Mina stackars hårstrån, let it be.
Jag gjorde den till mustasch.
Nej men gud, vänta.
Men gud, vänta.
Alltså.
Nej men gud, vänta.
Sätt den bakom örat.
Vänta lite här nu.
Sätt den bakom örat.